Right, didn't expect I'd be making a video quite so soon and to be making it on the topic I'm making it on. But hello, people of YouTube. An issue has raised itself within the last week. Basically, I live in the Nottingham area, and Nottingham County Council is one of the struggling councils, and it's, as a struggling council, it is looking at cutting funds, and it is looking at cutting those funds to avoid going bankrupt like Birmingham City Council did. And one of those cost-cutting measures it is looking at is to remove the concessionary fare travel from the trams. Now, as a disabled card holder, I do get the concessionary travel for both the buses and the trams in the area because I make use of those. I find the trams to be far more accessible than the buses in the area, and it is a great benefit to both myself and my husband. We're very fortunate to have the trams in the city and the surrounding areas, and the trams as it are set up have level access, which means I can get myself onto the tram without assistance, which is fantastic. It means I can do so independently, and a lot of other wheelchair users can do so as well. Another benefit is that people with mobility scooters can also get onto the trams, and it allows them greater freedom to travel around the city and the surrounding areas, which they may not have access to should this be removed. Another benefit is the fact that more than one wheelchair user can access this transport at a time. You can perhaps get at a push 4 wheelchair users, depending on how busy the tram is, which is great. It's a squeeze. We'll admit it is a bit of a squeeze depending on how busy the tram is, but it is doable safely. And yeah, the trams are great. You can hop on, hop off. It's easy to tap your pass onto the card readers. It allows greater independence. Not everybody is able to use the ticket machines because of dexterity issues, or depending on the nature of the disability in the first place. So again, it's greater independence for people. So yeah, so what the proposals are, because the concessionary tram travel at present costs the Nottingham City Council, it costs £900,000 annually. So they are looking at cost-cutting measures. Now, it is understandable things are costing money, and we are in a cost of living crisis, and the council is not receiving the funding from central government. So this is a larger issue, and this is a countrywide issue everywhere. City councils are not receiving the budgets. So again, making this known. So yeah, I do understand their reasonings for this, but it's going to hit the disabled and the elderly very hard. And especially the elderly, they are living on state pensions, which do not go very far. They really do not. I mean, when I was living with my mother and we had to rely on her state pension and what I got from while I was at college, it does not stretch. And those costs have gotten worse. I mean, this was 18 years ago. Those costs have gotten worse. We all know how people are struggling. Heating costs have risen exponentially. Elderly people who have this, who will be met with the cost of travel, simply will not be able to travel. That is the long and short of it. So where they will be able to travel, say via the tram, they will be then cut to what amenities they have nearer to them. So it will cut off tram travel for them instead. That if they do have bus travel, they may be able to access it. If they have a mobility scooter, they will not be able to get on the bus with that, because buses simply do not have the space for mobility scooters. If they're fortunate and have a tiny one, maybe. But again, that depends on how busy the bus is and whether there are already buggies occupying the spaces, whether there is already a wheelchair user on the bus. And yeah, if the bus is already busy, then it's not happening. The buses have already been cut in the local area due to funding cuts, because if the buses were found to not be making enough money on the routes, they were cut. So we've got a lot of bus services that don't run in the evenings either, or they run very sparsely. So again, the council's solution to say those people can use the buses don't run adequately in the surrounding areas. They may run well in the local city, but the buses are not adequate in the surrounding areas of the city, such as Bulwell, such as Hucknall, such as Basford, etc. It's not an adequate solution for those needs. And spoiler alert, disabled people do go out after 5 o'clock. We have a life. It's a very frustrating situation. Now, the options are to remove concessions entirely and pay full fare. I've got the information up on my computer. It is half fare payment, withdrawing the scheme for everybody except disabled pass holders and their companions, withdrawing free travel on the tram for all pass holders, and then to continue with the concessions as they are. I mean, half fare payment would work at a push. It's going to hit everybody in the pocket if this goes ahead. Again, I understand that these difficult decisions do have to be made, but it simply is going to hit a lot of people very hard and lead to a lot of social isolation, and a lot of people will simply not access the things that they do. I mean, the other aspect that we've got in now is the very recent Department for Work announcement about getting disabled people back into work. if you want disabled people back into work, we have to have accessible transport. If we haven't got accessible transport, how do we get to work? That's again for those of us who don't have conditions which are variable and don't interfere with us being able to go to work in the first place. I'm having to be very polite here because of YouTube, and I'm being very, very careful with my words here. It's very, very difficult because, again, it always seems like whenever budget decisions are put into place, it's always the most vulnerable groups who are targeted first. Yeah. So one of the things that can be done, if you are a Nottinghamshire resident who will be affected by this scheme, there is a form that can be, you can fill it out on the Nottinghamshire County Council website. One of the other things that's been frustrating about this is it's been publicised well by social media. Now, for those of us who have access to social media, fantastic. Not everybody who is going to be affected by this has access to social media. So, yes, you can fill the form in via social media. If you have relatives who will be affected by this, either show them the form and speak with them and get the form filled out with them. You can also get a paper copy of the form at Nottinghamshire libraries. They have paper copies so that you can also go and fill this form in. But I also urge anybody, if you know somebody who will be affected by this, please do go get the form filled in for them, because we need to make as much noise about this as possible. They need to hear everybody's feedback about this. Because it will lead to a lot of social isolation. People will not be able to access the things in their life that will give them meaning, such as employment, voluntary groups, well-being groups and support groups. Employment. It will make employment difficult for people who already have employment, whether it's voluntary and volunteering, whether it's paid employment. It's going to make paid employment more expensive for people. And again, it's going to make the cost of being employed even harder. And things cost more money. Things are difficult enough as it is anyway. It's tough enough as it is. And I understand that the council do need to be looking at where they're spending their money, and know that this is not an easy decision to make. But please do not come for people who are already disadvantaged enough as it is. That's basically my argument on this. And I know a lot of other disabled and elderly people are all saying the same thing. It's not just me saying this. A lot of local people are all arguing the same thing. So yeah, please, if you're local, make sure your voice is heard on this matter. Make sure you make your voice heard on behalf of other people, so that they hear us. And just, yeah, thank you for listening to me talk about this, because yeah, I'm just very passionate that something gets done and that we just don't let this go quietly into the night and just they don't hear us. Yeah. Yeah, remember to like and subscribe, and just, yeah, get the word out there. Thank you very much.